John, draft season lasts about 11 and a half months. Then they actually have the draft, and then we all kind of take a deep breath and move on to other things. But I think it's still worth talking about what exactly they did in this draft with their draft capital. Let's talk about all that here on the Viking Update Show. He's John Krasinski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. The Viking Update Show is presented to you by Giggly THC Beverages and Onyx Hunt. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio.
Ah, that first sip of coffee. Is there anything better? Yup. Coffee made with amazing water from Aquarius, your authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Enjoy worry-free water throughout your home for less than buying that daily cup of joe. Imagine spotless dishes, softer laundry, and drinking water you can trust. Plus, up to 25% off a new Connecticut system. Schedule your free water analysis at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Thanks for listening. We do appreciate it. If you like listening to Vikings Talk, I also recommend one of our newer shows at TalkNorth.com. John's colleague, Alec Lewis, who covers the team for The Athletic, is doing his show on our network now. He had already been doing a show, and he's already built a nice audience. He does a great job with it. He often does 2 in a week, so you're going to get a constant stream of Viking stuff there, as well as kind of the I would call us elderly writers, John, but
That's right.
But only one of us really qualify. So, Alex is the new breed of Viking writer. John's in the I don't want to say middle-aged either, the mature era of Vikings writer. And of course, I've been here writing about the Vikings since 1990. I'm old. I admit it. We'll give you some insights here. We'll get into some different topics. Before we even get to the draft, though, they got the Van Ginkel deal done before they got the Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah deal done. Van Ginkel is locked up, a testament to their ability to go find exactly the right kind of player in veteran free agency. He comes here. He was good from the first game on. He scored a defensive touchdown in his first game, had an excellent season, seems to fit in. He's a great athlete. He also seems to be a very intuitive, intelligent player. What do you make of that signing?
Yeah, I mean, I think really good business for the Vikings too, right, Jim? Because, I mean, first of all, you identified the talent and brought him in. And then I think that when players come in to this organization and then deliver on what they, it maybe even exceed expectations, I think, Jim, then you reward them with a 1-year extension. I think that just brings good vibes to the locker room. When you're aggressive with giving guys who deserve it the money that they want, I mean, that's really good politically from Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah and this team as well. And so if you're looking for ways to build good culture, good chemistry in the locker room, good vibes all around, give guys a pile of money. And Andrew Van Ginkel certainly deserves it with the way that he played. I think he's really important in Brian Flores' system, just kind of his style of play, the way that he is very opportunistic, creating turnovers, getting after the pass, the quarterback as well. Just all in all, a lot to like about what we saw from him in his first season here. And he stayed relatively healthy as well. So maybe that's a harbinger of things to come. And so, yeah, I just really think that those kinds of deals, especially when it's a 1-year extension, you're not committing to him for a ton more. You're not eating up all of your salary cap space or things like that. It makes a lot of sense. And so, I really think that moves like that can really just lay the groundwork for a good, productive offseason and a happy team when it comes to training camp in August.
One thing I'm having trouble getting used to, John, I got to understand, when I came here, 1990, the Vikings were they were a division championship level team. They had made a playoff run in recent history. They had, they Keith Millard, they Chris Dolman, they had, Joey Browner, they had Scott Studwell, they had John Randall was about to arrive. I mean, incredible defensive talent. Carl Lee is a cornerback. And by the way, Mark Dusbabic, outside linebacker, Faribault native, now is the primary rules official you'll see on TV talking about rules for the PGA Tour. I've talked to him a bunch down when I've covered the Masters and one of the nicest people to ever meet. It's really cool to see his career go that way. He's still built like a linebacker, by the way. Anyway, I get to town and all I hear about is the fact that Millard and Dolman don't like each other and are kind of in a rivalry, so you can get the more sacks, and the not liking each other thing might have been overplayed, but the rivalry between the two was not, and they both wanted big money. They both wanted to earn their way with sacks, and now I'm not used to having all these nice guy defenders to cover. Gernard's really classy. Van Ginkel's really classy. Cam Bynum, we all love Cam Bynum. We'll miss him. Harrison Smith is classy. You're used to the defenders being kind of the mean guys in the room. This has actually been a very likable group.
It's a great point, Jim. And like, I came along when I first started coming and covering the Vikings on a regular basis. It was Chris Carter, Randy Moss, Robert Smith, like all these guys who were really, really ornery all of the time. And you did have to walk around on eggshells a little bit in the locker room. And this is a different group that way. And really cool, also, Jim, to see that it's a team that can have success and can be a good team. And especially defensively, they are a mean, nasty defense. They get after you. It's really, it's just impressive to watch just how intense they play. But then when you talk to these guys in the locker room, they are approachable. They are generally agreeable to talk. I mean, of course, everyone has a bad day every once in a while, but by and large, it's a very hospitable place for a media member to be. And I know that the fans don't necessarily care about that, but like they should, because it generally means we get a little bit better understanding of what's happening on the field. We are able to convey that in our reporting, and we get to know the guys on a little bit deeper level, get a little bit richer stories, more details, better profiles, things of that nature, because the guys are generally decent dudes. Metellus is a good dude, like all up and down the roster, offensively and defensively. Justin Jefferson is a good dude to talk to. And so that's very, very helpful for us as people who are working the beat. And then that in turn means that you fans and you readers and listeners out there are getting more information and deeper knowledge of the team that you're cheering for. So it is very much appreciated, because Van Ginkel is another one of those guys who just is approachable, and you enjoy talking to him, and you know that it's not pulling teeth, and you're like, I got to go talk to this guy now, and I gotta try and figure out a way to get something out of him. And generally speaking, almost everyone, or a lot of the vast majority of people in that locker room, have been that way for the last few years.
By the way, I'm glad you brought up Metellus. Metellus is fantastic. Great player, great guy to talk football with, talk about anything with. Really cool. It's been interesting to see, because sometimes when you go the veteran free agency route, you're getting the bad kind of mercenary. You're getting the person who his last team didn't want to invest in him, and he is coming here strictly for the money. And that just has not been the sense you get. And I think Flores and O'Connell are just really good judges, and they have great networks. They can kind of figure out whether somebody's going to fit in terms of personality. Now, listen, if you get Lawrence Taylor and he's a really bad human being and he's going to get you 18 sacks, you'll take it. But it's kind of better for everybody if you can get guys like this.
Yeah, for sure. I think so, because I do think that, there are some players and there are some teams that might feed off of that kind of acrimony, that kind of edge that's in the locker room. But in general, the season is too long. It is too physically demanding, that if guys are miserable around each other, and I'm not just talking like with the media, I'm talking with each other. You mentioned, Millard and Doman. I remember so many of those Vikings teams in the late 90s, early 2000s. There was all sorts of conflicts that were rippling through those locker rooms. And so some teams can overcome that, but you really don't want to have to overcome that. And so if you have a team that generally gets along, that likes each other, I think that it's easier to go into the train wreck that you do every Sunday, during the football season, and what you put your body through. Like if the guy next to you like and you're rooting for and you're cheering for and you believe in, that does help things, because this is such a physically demanding game that if you're dreading going to work, if you hate the guy next to you, if you're in some sort of rivalry with them because he got paid this and you didn't, or things like that, that just really piles on to the already physically miserable experience. And then if it makes it mentally miserable as well, you're talking about tough kind of way to make a living, I would say.
Yes, I'm going to relate. And it's a story I've told before. I don't think I've told it
about some people you hate at the strip. Let's go.
No, we don't have time for all that. We're going to try to keep it short. No, I have a story I want to relate about something John Randall told me. I've said it before. I don't think I've said it on this network in quite a while, so I'm going to revive it for the points of this conversation. First, I want to remind you that we're sponsored, and Talk North is sponsored by Giggly.com. That's Giggly THC Beverages. We had a Talk North meeting yesterday, and ever since we all got the chance to try this stuff, we're all buying it. We're all using the promo code Talk North to get 50% off your first order, but we're ordering more because it's just like the perfect weeknight drink. It tastes great. It tastes like you're drinking a cocktail, but you're not going to have a hangover, not going to have any lethargy. It's probably going to help. It helps us sleep. It can even help with some aches and pains. It just kind of puts you in a nice, relaxed mood. And none of that would really matter if it didn't taste so good. It tastes great. You can get 10 milligrams THC or 5. 5 is my speed. And the flavors are great. They have cocktail flavors. They have tea flavors. They have seltzers. And I like everything I've tried. My favorite is the blueberry lemonade or the mule. But everybody likes something different. My wife loves just the lemon tea. The raspberry tea is really good. Check it all out at giggly.com. Use a promo code GigglyNorth to get 50% off your first order. Also, you can find this stuff in quick trips across the state and most of the places you can buy liquor. Highly recommend it. Also, want to let you know, have you ever driven past a piece of land and wondered who owns that, or maybe you need to know exactly where a property line runs? That's where Onyx Hunt comes in. It's not just for humans. Excuse me. It's not just for hunters. John, maybe I need to get to Chew Vision Institute. Maybe that's my next move here. There are folks using Onyx for their jobs every day throughout the country, from farmers and ranchers mapping out their fields, wildland firefighters navigating rough terrain, to construction workers needing to know owns what property. This app offers something for everyone. If you need the best land ownership maps, aerial imagery, and property boundaries in your pocket, Onyx Hunt is the tool for the job. Try it free for 7 days. Download Onyx Hunt in the app or Google Play Store, or visit onyxmaps.com/hunt to get started. So, I covered John Randall from his first minicamp as an undrafted rookie when he was young. He and I was the beat writer. I used to call him every winter, and he'd be out. One time I talked to him. I said, "What have you been doing?" He said, "Oh, just out in the backyard." "Oh, what are you doing?" It must be 100 degrees down there. He said, "Yeah, I was have my wife line up against me so I could practice getting off quick on snaps." He was
yeah. So that's. He is not the first person that I have heard use a significant other as a tackly dummy, and I'm talking in the innocent way, like not we don't like. I've seen videos of offensive linemen who have their gal line up right next to them and make a move so that they get off the ball like quicker and stuff. These guys are crazy, and the women who love them are even crazier.
Yes, well said. Anyway, I'm having a conversation with John Randall long after he retired. He moved back to Texas for a while. Then he found that the health care his daughter received for a very specific ailment in Minnesota was better than he'd get anywhere else. So he moved back up here. He and Randall McDaniel became golfing buddies. It's all kind of pretty cool stuff. Well, I knew John very well. And again, this is a guy who would answer my calls and talk to me in the off season. I leave to go cover the Twins. I come back to start covering the team and helping out with our Star Tribune coverage in '98. And it's this great team. And John Randall has turned into a sourpuss. He just doesn't like anybody. He's always mad at me. He's mad at anybody who walks up to talk to him. He's just in a perpetual rage. Well, at the end of his career, and Denny wanted that. Denny wanted the us against the world mentality. So at the end of his career, he goes to Seattle. John goes to Seattle, and he plays for Mike Holmgren on some good teams. And I'm talking to him years later, and I said, "What did you learn from what was it like playing for Holmgren?" He said, "It was such a blessing for me to go," and this is quoting John Randall. "It was such a blessing for me to go play for Mike Holmgren, and realize you didn't have to hate everybody to play good football. And Denny wanted it that way. Mike Holmgren did not want it that way. He wanted, he's more of a Pete Carroll type. He wanted his players to enjoy coming to work.
And this opens up such a big can of worms. In terms of, I do understand. We've seen it work both ways, I would say. Denny won a lot of games here.
He did.
By doing the
successful.
us against the world, mentality. There are plenty of old school football coaches, especially. Belichick had that mentality throughout the most of his reign. And we've seen that work a lot. And because I think that football players especially have a military-like order, right? We say if they go into battle, and of course we don't want to trivialize what soldiers do, but it has that sort of bunker mentality. It has that sort of rank and file thing. And so there's a belief that when you go into conflict, you have to have an edge about you. And there are coaches who really do kind of stoke that fire over and over and over again. I, for one, am of the opinion that is harder to sustain over a long period of time. Belichick certainly did it, but those cases are fewer and further between. I love, I should say, that coaches like Pete Carroll, like Tony Dungy, Kevin O'Connell is becoming that, are having success in building an environment that is more welcoming, that is more kind of chill, that, in those types of interactions. And so I think it takes a lot of work to drum up that sort of animosity, to invent these slights and things, and then to convey that to an entire organization and have it go in that way. I just think it's harder to do it that way. And so I have been very impressed by what O'Connell has done on that regard, by what Kwesi has done, by what the overall environment of the Vikings has become, just knowing, because I've lived it the other way. You've lived it the other way. And you can feel that tension when it's in the building. We felt it, Jim, at the end of the Zimmer Spielman era.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, and like how tight everyone was holding the steering wheel and how much harder it becomes to be successful over the long haul. And so, in that way, I'm hopeful that people realize that there's another way to do it. And it does seem like these Vikings do realize that. And I think it's better for everyone. I think the players like it more. I think the coaches like it more. I think the staffers who come to work like it more when it's set up the way that it's set up right now for the Vikings.
I'm going to offer a couple of opposing viewpoints on two topics we just got into. But first, I want you to hear from Talk North star Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, Go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
I also like to tell you about my friend Scott Dayton and his shop, Twill in the Edina Galleria, twillmn.com, best men's clothing store in Minnesota. Everything I wear, I'm going to a lot of games right now, and everything I'm wearing, I bought at Twill. My daughter's getting married later this summer. Everything I'm going to wear there, I've gotten at Twill. I'm going to hit the golf course. If the Wolves ever bow out of the playoffs, I'm going to hit the golf course at least occasionally. All my golf stuff I bought at Twill. I bought a suit that I wore to our last live show for TalkNorth.com, our round table, and I wore everything I wore there. I bought at Twill. The socks I'm wearing, bought at Twill. The dress shoes I bought at Twill. The casual shoes I bought at Twill. I think you're getting the picture. So golf season, graduation season, get something for yourself. Pick up a gift card for the graduate in your life. You'll get them off to a good start. They'll either be able to wear something really nice and comfortable, or they'll be able to buy something they can wear to a job interview. TwillMN.com, Twill in the Edina Galleria. Also want to tell you quickly about Natram. I love the gummies, the balms, the oils. The balms are great for sore muscles, tendonitis, old guy stuff, even young guy stuff. I was sore when I was young too. The gut oils are really helpful if you have digestive issues, as I sometimes do. The gummies, the candies are just for fun. They just take the edge off. And I really love the sleep aids. Sometimes John and I work in a weird industry. We work late nights, we work weekends, we're up early because we have kids and dogs and other obligations, and sleep aids that can just help you nod off, quickly and in a relaxed way without knocking you out. It can just change your life. So check out Natram.com. I recommend going and talk to a sales professional at the Mothership store in St. Louis Park. Help them find what's going to work for you. And then you can always go to Natram.com and order it online. And thanks for your support. So two things I want to mention. One thing is I know Pete Bursich, Vikings announcer, former Vikings linebacker. He was a Notre Dame guy, very smart player, kind of cut his niche. He has told me that he loved playing for Denny, and Pete's a nice guy. So it's not like everybody hated Denny. It's just that the atmosphere we were usually subjected to, was fairly negative. The other thing I have been hearing lately, and this is, it's one of the things I usually don't get into the stuff, but I don't want to whitewash anything. And, I've talked about how cohesive I think this organization is. And I do think the coaching staff is. I do think the players are. I think, most of the support staff, I think it's as good as they've ever had it out there. And especially with the Wilfs, you do hear rumblings that they're, Kwesi he's just not a football guy. So maybe he's just not in the same, canoe as everybody else, just in terms of mentality, how you go about things. And I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that he has not signed his new deal, or maybe has not gotten an offer that he thinks is worth signing.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic. I do think that we've discussed this before, but there are sort of two tracks that you talk about when you make a hire like Kwesi Adofo-Mensah in a job that he has. One is, it's exciting and interesting to go in a different direction from the dyed-in-the-wool scout, from the quote-unquote football guy type of a hire, and you go outside the box. I mean, I think Kwesi is an incredibly interesting person. His background did not start in football, and like how he sort of went along on his journey to get to where he is, and the way that he thinks about things, the way that he sees the world, the way that he looks at football is different, and there's an entirely different perspective. And so that I think is refreshing, and I think it's valuable to have that sort of a diversity, not just in skin color, but just in overall perspective when you're looking at building your organization. The other track of that is when the person is different or unconventional, or has, a background that is unique, compared to many of like the coaches and some of the other longtime football employees, on the Viking side of things. It does bring up the possibilities that there is just a lack of connection, or certainly a lack of understanding between the old school guys, and the new school, kind of different attitudes about it. I mean, I know that there's like a lot of talk about one of the valuable parts of Ryan Grigson being there is he's sort of a bridge between the two sides. But I think that it is reasonable to expect that there's going to be some bumps in the road, or just some lack of connection or miscommunications that happen when the two worlds are kind of far apart, just in terms of experience, in terms of perspective, in terms of all of that. So is that contributing to Kwesi's lack of resolution on his contract? I'm not exactly sure, Jim, but yeah, I don't think that you're alone in sort of hearing that behind the scenes, that it hasn't always been just a completely even and easy mesh of Kwesi with some of the more, I don't even know how to term it, but the football dudes. And so I think that is something that has to be navigated, and probably has been navigated since he arrived here, and we'll see kind of where it goes from here. But yeah, I think that's a real thing that is inherent in making a hire like Kwesi Adofo-Mensah.
Yeah, I remember a couple things. I know O'Connell and Kwesi kind of hung out a little bit together. They go to each other's houses for dinner when he first got here. I don't know if that's happening anymore. Also, I still remember, and I've been covering the NFL since 1989, and football guys think there's always another piece of film to look at. They feel like there's always another drill you can uncover. They're obsessive. And I remember it might've been after the first day of his first draft, we were asking, hey, you can go right back in the room and start working up, the phones or whatever. And Kwesi's like, no, I'm going home to the hot tub. You can only do so much. And yeah. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying that I guarantee you there were a lot of football people in the building who went, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I think that's, the sort of work-life balance types of things, the obsessiveness about it. I think, to me, Jim, I don't know what you, but like, and I have not been around Kwesi like a ton, but there seems to me to be sort of an inner confidence that he carries that's like, yeah, I got this figured out. Like I can do this, and I've done my work, and now I can go home. Or I've looked into this guy and I don't need to look into this guy, or, things of that nature, that he just feels like very secure in how he does the job, in the work that he puts in, and in what that is going to do for the team over the short and long term. And I think that, to your point about the obsessiveness of some of the coaches or some of the scouts and things, there is an insecurity that comes with that position. That's, what am I missing? Who is getting over on me on another team, in the division, and who are they finding that I'm not? And so that kind of drives their work ethic and their approach to things. And so there are some conflicts there just between those two positions, and it can breed, I'm trying to think of the way to say it, but it can breed a disconnect between the two ways. And I don't know that there is a right answer and a wrong answer, but these are two different ways of doing things, and can sometimes be cause for concern.
Kwesi signed through next year's draft, so there's not true urgency that they have to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
But the more he remains unsigned past that date, and the more you kind of hear that he's not exactly on the same wavelength as a lot of the people in the building, it's just something to watch. I'm not going to make any predictions here. I'm just saying it'll be something to watch.
Yeah, and Jim, here's what I would guess. This is my sort of guess on the matter right now. Is I would think that, given his contract situation, given the relative success that they've had on the field, and how things are going there, that Kwesi would probably be looking for an extension that is more long-term of, hey, we've had 2 really good seasons so far. We haven't won the playoffs yet, but we're building something here. We're having some success. I know my value. I know my worth. I want, 4 or 5 year, whatever extension it is. And I could see, the Vikings, or certainly Vikings ownership, saying, you know what, Kwesi, things have been good so far, but it hasn't been perfect. Still haven't won the playoffs. Let's just go with, how about a 1 year? How about a 2-year extension? And then go from there and try to keep building that way. And so, given what we know about Kwesi and about his confidence and about his self-worth and the way that he looks at things that way, that would be my guess as to the issue here. And like you said, they can go into the season without a deal, and Kwesi would not be the first person to bet on himself. And if the Vikings have a great year, if they go deep into the playoffs, then he's going to have a lot of leverage in things. They had a great free agency period. They had, I think, a pretty strong draft. And so if all of that comes together, he's going to be in really good shape. But if not, then it might be a little bit easier for the Vikings to look at other options if they feel like they need to.
Good stuff, John. We didn't get to everything we expected to get to today, but nice thing is it's the off season. We can save some of our best topics for other shows. One topic in the future are the Wilfs, the best sports owners in town. Another topic for a future show: are the Vikings really as good as we think they are? I mean, they haven't proven it in the postseason. Do we really feel comfortable saying that? We'll also get more into the draft recap, how they use their draft capital, and the rookie mini camps. For today, check out the John Krasinski Show on the Timberwolves. Fantastic stuff there. Check out Alec Lewis's Vikings show. Check out Mark Rosen's new show, Don Mitchell's show. And we do appreciate you listening to TalkNorth.com.